Hi, it's Kim from Blank Page Muse. I'm here with you today in Riverside, California with our little company, again, Blank Page Muse. We're online at blankpagemuse.com. I've got a very quick, short project to do with you. It's just stamping and stenciling. Doesn't take a lot of time, and you get this really wonderful card. Here we go. Okay, so here you go. There's all the supplies you should have received in your kit. You should have the watercolor panel. You should have the folded card base here, which I'm just going to go ahead and set that aside. We don't need it quite yet. You have your stamps. You have your 3 red rubber stamps. This is our vintage lady with some writing around here. It's kind of got an overall steampunk vibe, which is a lot of fun. You have a wonderful flower, which can be used on almost anything you can think of. And the wonderful sentiment, let your dreams blossom. I'm going to set these aside for a minute. All we're doing today is really, it's just stamping and a little bit of stenciling and then a teeny bit of coloring. So it's a really fast project, actually. Let me set these aside. What I want to do first is put some color down on the watercolor panel, because I'm going to put a layer of yellow and I'm going to do it in kind of an arching pattern over here. I'm using Distress Oxide Squeezed Lemonade because it's a nice bright yellow that I have. Just get the brush or sponge, whatever you use, get it all nice and inky with your colors, and just start applying some yellow on here in a nice arcing pattern. That starts to fill in, so when we're stamping, it's got some color behind it, especially with the oxides. When you get the oxide ink on top of the black stamping ink, it kind of gets a little pasty looking. So if you're using a different sort of color for the background, it'll probably be fine. But again, just get a little bit of yellow here, and that's going to make some highlighted areas. That looks good. So I'm going to set this aside, put the cap back on, brush off my brush. Okay, now got the base color on there, and we're going to get this ready to stamp. I'm using a stamp platform on this. It just helps really line everything up better and helps get the focal point, the lady on the background, helps get her a little straight. I'm also going to be using a piece of washi tape to help line everything up, and I'm just going to literally line it up to the bottom of her collar piece there. That just helps get it relatively straight. And let me grab my platform. Here we go. I'm going to put the ink side up and pick a part on the platform that I like. Put the magnets down. And then I'm going to take a scratch piece of paper because I want to do a test stamp on it to make sure it's relatively straight. So I'm going to line up the paper right over the card, the watercolor card base. Just like so. Put the magnet back down. That's just going to help me know in my mind so that it's relatively centered and where I want it. Overall, the lady image is going to be in this part of the stamp here, kind of not really the middle, just offset just a little bit. And so here we go. Hope you can see this. Sorry if I'm covering up the code, but you got that. And bottom of her collar goes right about there. And it's going to stamp over a little bit, which is fine. There we go. Tape itself looks like it's parallel to the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and attach it here. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to remove the tape and then ink up the stamp. And there we go. That looks pretty straight to me. She's not floating. And the image looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and carefully remove the scratch paper out of there. Put the magnet back down. And I'm going to set the paper aside for now. And also, on the lady stamp, I really want to mainly focus on getting the head inked so it's nice and dark. And the text area on the sides, I don't really care too much if those get kind of blurry. So I'm gonna just ink in the middle portion of the stamp over the face. That will help kind of blend into the background a little bit. So you just want to ink around her face, just using the corner of your ink pad. Get that inked. Don't worry too much about the text on the edges. We just want a little bit of it showing. If you have a small ink pad, it probably works really good to fit those tiny areas. Okay. Looks pretty nice and shiny. Let's get the first pressing down on it and see how that looks. Okay, not bad. I'm going to ink a little more in the middle to get that darker. Not quite dark enough for me. See how it looks. I'm actually going to take a paper towel I have here on the side. I'm going to wipe a little ink off of some of the text. It's probably a better way to do it. So it'll kind of fade into the background a bit. Okay, let's see how that looks. There, that's pretty good. I like that. I like how it's a little faint here. That'll help it blend. So we're done with that stamp. So you can go ahead and take that off your platform. Take it away and move on. Get ready for the next one. Set it aside. There we go. And for the sentiment, I want to line it up the same way. I want the sentiment to be on this portion of the card, basically right about there. And I want to make sure I get it on there straight again. So I'm going to use that washi tape. And I'm going to apply it right across this top part of the lettering here. And I want it down a little bit from the top. So I'm just going to get it as straight as I can, just eyeing it. I'm not going to measure anything, just eyeballing it. And can even put the test paper back down and stamp it. Do a trial run on the stamping, make sure it looks straight. There we go. Let's see, there's the edge there, and I want it in a little bit from the edge because it's gonna go over quite a bit. And that looks pretty good. And I said I didn't take the wax paper off this yet, so I'm gonna have to realign it. There we go. That looks pretty good. You can see where it is in relation to the lady there. So let's give it a test and see how that looks. Take the tape off and ink it up. Sometimes there's a little bit of the mounting cushion when we cut it. It leaves a little bit on the stamp, so when you do a test stamp, it helps make sure you got that off and you're going to get a nice stamped image too. Okay. Set that paper aside. The other magnet down. There we go. And ink the stamp again. And that looks nice and dark. It's fairly close there. It looks good. I don't think it needs to be re-inked. It was stamped perfect the first time. Okay, I'm going to take this off. Now the next part is stamping the actual flowers. They're going to be stamped here and here. You can do it on the stamping platform, but I definitely put some paper underneath it because otherwise you're going to have ink everywhere. So you can do that. And I'm going to stamp the flower 4 times. I'm using the same stamp, and we're just going to be rotating it. We're going to put one of them right here underneath blossom, so the blossom of the flower is coming up a little bit. We'll put another one here. And then we're going to do just the petals over here, and then coming in from the corner about like so. I'll start with the corner here. Attach the stamp. I scoot it in a little bit so it stamps flat. So I had it too close to the edge of the platform. There. Okay, it looks pretty nice. I'm gonna ink it just a little bit more in the middle here. Now I'm gonna move it, and I want it basically in this area here, just to get the petals to come in. Set it down. I know it's got ink on it, so I'm going to be careful I don't scoot it. Pick it up. And it's already got part of the image there, so that looks pretty cool. Okay, it looks nicely inked. Now with the top, I want the blossom coming down, so I'm going to turn the stamp over and put it right about there. Again, I'm going to put it down carefully, so scoot it, and get a ghost line. Nice. Bring it back down, finish the image. Good. Now I've got to move the magnets because they're sitting in the area that I want. Next part of the stamp. Yeah. This time I want the blossom up, and I'm just going to angle it to try to tuck it in under the word blossom just a little bit. So right about there. Pick it back up. Yep, that's about where I want it. I want to get the middle just a little darker. Good. All nice and dark, looks ready to take it off. Put the stamps aside and get the platform out of the way. Here we go. Of all the stamping in there, it's nice and tight, looks very colorful. And next, I'm going to start putting in some of the fern background. These little wonderful fronds here and a bee. I'm going to start with this orange color and kind of place it like so. Just to have those little leaves in there, it just gives it some interest. And just stencil it over it a little bit. Some color there. And then without re-inking the brush, just move it down and just do another little rub on the stencil to get a little lighter shade. I'm just being careful I don't go over the stamping too much because it just kind of hides it a little bit. And I'm going to tuck some in over here in the same orange. I'm going to put a little more ink on it. Just come around the flowers a little bit and over the text is fine. Right up to her. There we go. And I'll put a little bit down here. Just building up some stencil layers is a lot of fun. Gives a lot of depth. The stamping is a little tighter on this one than the actual sample you saw, and it makes it nice and full. And I'm going to take a little bit of pink. There's another brush for that one. And I'm going to come over with another part of the stencil right through here. It's a little light blushy pink right up around the flowers, right through the middle section here. And I'll continue it a little bit around the sentiment right there. And there, it's pulling in some of the orange so you get another color, which is really pretty, kind of like a sunset. And that definitely keeps some pretty color layers. Lift up the stencil. Ooh, I like how that looks. And I'm going to tuck in a little bit of the bee. You've got your bumblebee here. I'm going to have it coming in up off this corner here. I'm going to go ahead and do it in pink also. You can do these in any colors you like. These are the colors I'm having fun with right now, so I think I use them a lot in my projects, but it's nice and bright and warm too at the same time. There we go. Got a little bit of the bee coming up. And I'm just going to layer over some more of the fern right here, again in the pink orange as the inks blend together a bit. Just get that shadowing, a little bit of depth going. And I'm going to take the same pink and just put a little bit of blush right on her face right here, just to fill in a little bit of color. So it's not quite so pale, just stark white. There we go. I don't know how well that's going to show up. Hopefully you can see it. It looks okay. And I think that's it for the stenciling. Actually, no. Sorry. I see another area. Up here is still kind of plain. I want some color there. So I'm just going to lay out the stencil over. So transparent, you could just layer it in very nicely. The inks work great for that. And a little bit there. And if you see any other areas you want, just take your brush and just bring in a little bit of dabs like that. The nice patterns there. And if you use different areas of the stencil too, the petals are bigger down here at the bottom than at the top. So it just gives a lot more depth, almost a bokeh look. There we go. And we're just filling in all that area between the images with some of the fern stencil to bring in color and depth. There we go. I'm going to set that aside. And now ready to just color the flowers. And to color the flowers, I'm going to use my watercolor pens. They come in this nice set. They're Color It. I found them on Amazon. and it's a nice zipper pack. I have a water brush pen, and I'm going to do the flowers with the oranges and yellows, the petals, and in the very center of the flowers, I'm going to use this really deep red and a brown color just to deepen it. Set this aside out of the way, and here we go. Let's start with, I'm going to start here at the top. Let's start with the middle flower first, the middle of the flower, just touching it in, getting the color. I like just dabbing it, putting the color down. Darkening the edge of it a little bit. Then I'll come in with a water brush and just activate that watercolor a teeny bit. Again, just for kind of a dabbing motion, helps it blend. And if it looks too wet, watercolor paper, you can just dab it back off and it'll lift a little bit. It'll adjust your color intensity a teeny bit. Okay, let's go ahead and do the corner piece here. Now spin it around and go back over here. And the last center flower here. Okay, I got outside the lines a little bit, so I'm just going to use the water pen. Just pull a little bit of water on there and sop it up just a teeny bit. There we go. Looks fine. Alright, and the flowers, petals themselves, I'm going to start with a yellow, a lighter yellow. Just put a little brush stroke down on each section. Spin this around a bit. The flowers are really easy. You don't have to be real particular and stay within the lines. Just using just a quick watercolor effect on it. It's almost a quick wash. And it looks really neat. And it's just so fast to do. I'm going to come in with a little darker orange. Just get a little on there. Just quick broad strokes on it. Pulling it from the center outwards. And the last one over here. Okay, I'm going to use a water brush to get a little water going here, to blend it, finish blending it, each petal. And while it's wet, I'm going to use the darkest orange and see if I can just get a little bloom of color right up in here. There we go. Again, I like that dabbing motion. It lets it puddle a little bit. Probably come in with a light one here. And yeah, pull it down a little bit. I'll go ahead and do that on all the flowers. the watercolor, activate the color, blend it a bit all the way to the petal tip. Being careful not to pull anything from the center of the flower out, might get a little dark. There we go. And a little bit of the orange bloom right through here. And bring that down with the yellow. Okay. And it's okay if one of the flowers, if they're a little lighter or darker, because no two flowers are the exact same anyway. There we go. I like that. And the very last flower here. The water brush brings those colors together really nicely. Very translucent look. It's really nice. Let's add a teeny bit of orange bloom right along here again. And back to the yellow to pull it down just a teeny bit. There we go. And that's that. That's the whole card colored. That was really fast. If you see anything you want to add in, a little color, you can always come in and do that. Once the card is totally dry, then we're going to mount it on the card base, and you're ready to go. It's done. So, here we go. It's pretty dry. I'll go ahead and give it a try. And here's the mount. Here's your card already mounted on there, and it's all ready to go. You can write anything like inside and let your dreams blossom. Thanks for being here with us at Blank Page Muse and Scrapbook Expo. Hope you enjoyed this wonderful springy card. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.